they're going to go from here. It's been a really fun Delta Force Invitational across the board, and we started in open qualifiers. So we had teams registering from this European region. We also have North America. That's later today. The 12 teams that register and then qualified through open quals made it to regional semifinals. That was last week. You and Vivid, great cast, great games. I saw Mandelbrick get stolen like 15 times in one game. It was nuts. So those 12 teams were divided into 2 groups. Then the top 3 teams from regional finals, semifinals, make regional finals. 1 team from Group A, 1 team from Group B, and then the next highest overall. So those are the 3 teams that are making it from the semifinals to today. And then the question is, who are the other 3 teams? Well, we have 3 invited. I'm going to put invited in quotation marks because they technically did earn their spot, all right? We have our winner from the Delta Force Global League Season 0, our winner from the Delta Force Global League Season 1 and 2. We'll talk about them in a second. And our winner from DFEI. Those are our other 3 teams for a total of 6, all playing for the top 2 spots to qualify for the Delta Force Invitational LAN in September in China, playing for $500,000 against teams from 8 different regions. Insane format. I love it, and I am so excited we are finally here for regional finals. So let's talk a little bit about the match rules. If you're maybe just tuning in for the very first time, you haven't seen any of these qualifiers or any of the other operations events that we've done, this is how it works. Tiff, we've had a lot of fun with this brand new format, and to start, of course, all these players are given money, but I want you to walk me through this graphic because I think the key thing for people to remember at home is that this is going to play more similar to pubs. You lose your stuff if you die.
Yeah, and I think that's super fun, right? Because we are going to have some of those rounds, as you see in that bottom center. It says rounds 1 and 3. Those are going to have airdrops. There will not be Mandelbricks on the map. Those are only going to be occurring in 2, 4, 5, and 6. So the latter half of the series, and of course, once in the first 3 games. Now, the cool part about this is with the double brick format, you can end it in 4 games. You can just completely shut people down. Those operators can only be used twice. Now, I say kind of all of that, but if you lose your stuff in the first game on an airdrop round, when you really should be kind of bolstering the amount of Technic alloy you have so you can kind of build the best loadout and come in with some decent gear, right? You want to make sure that you can take those fights and hold off on the defensive side of things when we get into those later Mandelbrick rounds.
Yes, such a great shot. A really unique format. I love this one. We're going to be ranking teams based on the Mandelbricks they pick up, then total loot value. That's how it's all going to work, and we'll continue to talk about the minutia. But we are playing for a bit of cash today. Our top 6 teams, that's everybody that made it to the stage, will be walking away with something. $4,000, though, for the team at the top. And, of course, an invite to the LAN in China for the Delta Force Invitational. $4,000 is nice. That LAN ticket is even nicer. But second place, the same $3,000, and then third all the way down, still making a bit of cash, but the majority of our prize pool here at the top of our leaderboard. So top 2 making good cash and getting their tickets to LAN. We got to talk about some of these teams here, Tiff, because this competition is star-studded lineups, frankly. I mean, we've had an obvious competition.
Dare I say that I'm very, very excited. Now, if you run it back, and you guys were here with us last weekend during the semis, and here's the deal. You saw some of these teams. There was an entire lobby that was happening off screen because we followed Group A on broadcast. Group B was off broadcast. So Mandelbrick Addiction. If you don't know this name, please get familiar because, of course, in the double brick format, if you're coming in naming yourself Mandelbrick Addiction, you're coming in with a job that you are looking to lock it in. Hailing from Group B last week, and this team locked it down in 4 games, got the Mandelbrick both times it was dropped, ended the tournament early, and still outlooted the majority of all of our teams that were in the semi-regional finals for the EU region, which you're witnessing here today. Fallen, they're going to hail from Group A. Now, let me just tell you, Goj, they had some insane plays to make it happen. I'm talking HR cross-map going crazy. But it's to be said that Flarich and ProRock were also equally as impressive. Their utilization on the different operators and the way that they can just kind of flow is great. Here's the deal, though. I didn't even mention Legerons de la Teste. They hail from that Delta Force Global League. They're so impressive. But I just think that when you kind of see them all together and some of the plays that we witnessed from the semis here on screen right now, these are what you're going to be contending with. Just some of the craziest jump peaks, people full sending. We saw Saniva shield bashes in, and honestly, more Saniva gameplay than I thought we would witness in a long time.
Yeah, it's super valuable to be able to utilize all of your operators. Nice shots. This Fallen team, like you had mentioned, again, it was a really fun time just listening back to y'all's cast. It was weird not being on the desk with you. I was out of town, and Vivid just crushed the cast with you, both of you working really well together. But in semifinals here, Fallen doing the most. I mean, really strong team, a team that absolutely walks into the finals today with, frankly, a target on their back. I mean, winning a semifinals like this, everybody knows they're one of the top teams. They had great chemistry, played together really well, obviously picked up some nice shots as well. But at the end of the day, it was just a matter of execution, and they were able to do it better than anyone else in semifinals A. And like you mentioned, in semifinals B, you know, Mandelbrick Addiction is the other team to watch out for. The two teams that came from the top of the leaderboards from their respective semifinals have got to be two of my favorites. But if we can, I'd like to go back to that team's graphic, because we've got some more teams to highlight before we get into the game. And I think notably a couple of our invited teams, I had mentioned where they came from. One, on the top left of your screen, No Game, No Life. You might say, who the heck are these guys? Well, they came from the original Delta Force Global League Season 0. Before we even fully had our seasons broken out, Season 1, Season 2, their winners, like you had mentioned, Les Garants de la Teste. I'm never going to say that right because I'm not French. You've got that. But they're a really strong team. No Game, No Life won before them in Season 0. So watch out for that team. These are the OGs of the original Operations Esports. And then bottom right, YJK, they were third overall in the semifinals, and they were able to make it here. Paris, aka Team Stickinson, they're in top middle. They're the team that won the Delta Force Elite Invitational we did a couple weeks ago, if you paid attention to that show. So that's where all these teams came from. But technically our Frenchman, top right, I mean, Tiff, I want you to talk to me about this team again, because we've got some highlights from them. They not only won Delta Force Global League Season 2, which would have given them an invite to the stage, but they also won the game before that.
Yeah, they definitely did. I feel like we need to run it back, and we're going to have a moment to see our journey throughout the day. Is you were talking about the scrims that our teams were playing in, right? World scrims. Were there any teams that you might have kind of seen that are maybe ones to watch, that are people are like, I'm actually nervous going up against them as we look towards, you know, Zero Dam?
Yeah, I think to start things off, again, it's going to set the tone. We are starting Zero Dam in match 1. And for the folks at home that maybe haven't watched these broadcasts, we just explained it a moment ago. There will be Mandelbricks available. You can see them on your screen in maps 2, 4, 5, and 6, not 1s and 3s. And so the first map and the third map will not have a Mandelbrick on them, but it does allow our teams to rack up their loot value, Tiff. And you were asking about scrims, and I think this is a great question, because we have a lot of big competitions with some invited teams or qualified teams, people trying to figure out this mode. They've been running scrims with the whole people, all of the people trying to qualify for Worlds. So that's everybody from North America and EU. And the team that's won the most scrims out of everybody between both regions is Mandelbrick Addiction, who is going to be that team that won Group B that wasn't on our main broadcast last week. Absolutely got to be a front runner in my mind if you're also winning off ping against some North America folks. I'm super pumped to see what that team's able to execute on during this game. But because there's been scrims, there's been so many competitions, people have been able to VOD review. So anything can happen. You could learn how these other teams play. We've got a lot of experience. This is going to be super sweaty. We're starting on Zero Dam. No Mandelbrick. It's all about the loot.
I love if you're going to bring it down and just show us right off the rip. Now, mind you, this is a 16-minute map timer, so it's going to have to work incredibly quick. But you saw this last week on the main broadcast. This is something that you should be very aware of. So when you look at the spawn points, typically we've been seeing about 2 teams that spawn up near admin and usually get into a contest early on. But we actually aren't going to get that here for our map number 1.
Yeah, this is a huge win here as we take a look at that map. It's a great call out. Paris, aka Team Stickinson, they've got all of admin by themselves. Nobody's even contesting them. Nobody's pushing up at them at all. Everybody playing slow at this point, and they got the nice spawn at admin. So they're going to walk away with, on paper, the best loot. We'll see if that actually comes to pass. But with admin alone for a while, this is going to be a little bit of a slower start. And as of right now, it looks like maybe our first fights will come on the left side of your screen, pending how these teams rotate out of cement, through cement, or up into barracks. It looks like it does look Stickinson able to find a gold bar. It's a nice little 330k or so.
Nice. Ooh, okay, good. At least we're kind of checking in to see where they were able to find that. Of course, if you've got admin all to yourself, you're going to get all of the goods. So I love that you highlight kind of the Eastern side of things, maybe the Western as well. Fallen is going to be that team that hailed from Semi A that performed substantially well. Of course, you've got to keep your eyes on them. But when you've got Mandel Brick Addicts, kind of the center of Zero Dam, the big threat lurking amongst them. Are they going to look to try and maybe seek out all of the engagements here on map number 1 while you can kind of see, or are we just going to loot up and focus on our gear and then attack everyone once that Mandel Brick drops?
Yeah, that's a really good question. 4.1 mil already by Perry. Yeah. Did I see that correctly? I needed an observer to check. Did we miss? Did somebody find a key card, or is that bot and just in their safe box? How are we already at 4.1 mil already? They are cooking already in the map. Another gold bar, maybe exchanging hands to make sure we can throw these in our safe boxes. Good grief, we are flying through this lobby already. Huge boon to have admin by yourselves, getting a ton of great loot to start. This is going to set Paris up for huge success beginning of this game.
Well, to be fair, I love that we have the beginning of the game finding nice success, but you have to think about getting out of Zero Dam. And how many times have we seen our teams get really congested up to that northern extract, right? As soon as that lever gets pulled. But we even had some fun strategies that came out in last week. I don't remember if it was the NA or the EU region. Someone was waiting for other people to pull the freaking lever while they were waiting and then ambushed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the classic strategy. I think there's going to be fights near Dam Extract, and pulling that lever early can absolutely force some of those, at least force somebody to respond to them. All of a sudden, Paris has jumped to 7. Okay, no, that was overall. That makes way more sense. It scared me on the left-hand side. One thing we'll notice as we're kind of watching this potential fight here in Cement, probably going to be a slow one. On the left, you're going to be seeing our leaderboard constantly live updated. Assets obtained is going to be in this match. So 4.6 million already for Paris. The other team's kind of pushing up towards 1 million right now. NGNL technically in second. That's going to be our Delta Force Global League Season 0. No game, no life team. But I think the thing to remember is that this loot value, what you take out of this map, is going to set you up for success going into the next ones. You could buy your new loot, you could buy better guns, you could buy better armor, etc., etc., let alone the value it gives you on the leaderboard.
All units, airdrops have been deployed all around the map.
Good shouts. All right, so it looks like we're starting to get our first airdrop, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, should have a really nice piece of armor or helmet inside it. But I'm kind of just looking at our operators that we're dropping in with. Of course, I did mention last week we had a ton of Saniva gameplay in those earlier matches, and they proved to be really important to the fact that we were getting 1v1s against Sanivas on teams, which I didn't think I was going to see in my lifetime, but I've really been enjoying it. You also have the D-Wolf and you have the Viren. The Viren early on, I like for the quick looting and just the highly aggressive gameplay, but in terms of most teams, I saw people saving that.
Yeah, I think the operator quandary is a fun one. See, it looks like YJK picked up a nice little 276K item there, USB drive on the right. But yeah, it's a fun conversation because I think there's been a varying degrees of strategies of like, hey, we want to use some of our aggressive assault operators in certain rounds. I think the big question is, like you mentioned, Saniva seeing so much value on the map, especially in Mandel Brick rounds. So I absolutely think we'll see some folks save the Saniva operators. Again, the team, folks at home, the team can only use certain operators, each operator twice total. That's it. So if you use the same operator, if two of you use the same operator in one round, boom, you can't use that operator for the rest of the entire tourney, which could go up to 6 games. So a lot of strategy on what we're bringing in. But here's our first airdrop. Let's see what our team's able to do. Not only does Paris have the entirety of admin to themselves, but they also have the airdrop to themselves. Talk about some nice value. We get a fossil. Okay, we get some comms radios, 2 of them. Good. Double fossil, double radios, double the fun, and a mantle. We are crushing it right now for Perry. We are being gifted. The RNG gods are saying we want Perry to win map 1. Huge boon for them right now as they're going to be stacking their safe boxes with everything that they can fit, Tiff. But frankly, I don't think it's all going to fit. So wiping Perry here could be a huge boon for some of the other teams.
And is someone going to be able to do that? We expect to see all the fighting towards the end, but we are just putting a big target on our back, having admin, then getting the airdrop. As soon as someone kind of finds maybe one of these players, grabs the loot off them, you're going to be like, this is insane. So making sure that those gold bars, like you see, are in the safe box to preserve them. You got to do it. But I also think that they're kind of their compositions interesting, right? Do we see a lot of people using Stinger right off the rip? Not so much. I feel like even Hackclaw kind of lives towards the end of the series. So we're coming out really swinging right now.
We definitely are. I think some of these teams are expecting some earlier engagements in this first map. Traditionally, we've seen our first maps go very quick. Obviously, like you had mentioned at the top of this map, 16-minute timer in total. We already only have 8.5 minutes left. Like, not a lot of time at all. We actually see one member of this NBA team behind. It looks like YGK, and they are down below. I think maybe they had heard some footsteps. They're going to double back, but not going to sniff them out too fast. Here's our second airdrop, by the way. It's going to be on the southeastern-ish side of the map, just underneath Substation. Should see two teams potentially contest for that airdrop. There's a lot of value there. Now, look at our French squad. They are in the damn extract already, Tiff. Potentially camping, waiting for somebody to come their way.
I'm telling you, this is a strat that we witnessed, right? So knowing that if you can get there and get in position early, you can withstand all the fights, because typically the next team that goes to get up in that area, there's like these little hallways over towards the right, and it turns into this big choke point where someone's going to essentially sandwich them in, breaks out into a massive brawl, and if you're already there, you're setting yourself up for success. So let's say Perry is the team that gets sandwiched up in there. Guess who's going to take that fight, loot them, and take the majority of their goods that they couldn't fit in the safe box?
MBA is Mandel Brick Addiction. They're going to be in blue. They're a team that we absolutely have to watch out for. Perry's total has jumped all the way to 6.6 million. Huge game for them, but they got to get out of the map. In theory, they've got a nice value in their safe box, but probably a couple million that isn't able to fit. Here's that airdrop. This is on the south side of Substation, so Mandel Brick Addiction is going to go for this. This could be a huge boon, obviously, for loot value. It does look like our first fight of the competition right here over the airdrop, a big one.
I love how conservative we're being right here as well. YJK still trying to play this kind of sidelines, but at least we have the triple blaster to kind of section things off, and quite frankly, it gets you a knock and an assist, so it is working.
Yeah, this is a huge moment, by the way. If you see those Lapua ammo coming through for Mandel Brick Addiction, that's because in that airdrop, there is an AWM and its ammo. A huge one. Be able to take it potentially into a Mandel Brick round if you can either use it on this map or save it for the next one. There's plenty of ammo there to do both, but you've got to get out of the map with it. And all of a sudden, it looks like this Fallen Teen's going to get into the piece of the action. Using a Sneva early could give a huge boon for this fight, as all of a sudden, no game, no life, now in a pinch.
Oh, but it's a Sineva, and they've got the shield out, and they want to lurk around here. And this is where we're going to see, I believe, 4 teams kind of collapsing in a nearby area. And if Mandel Brick still hasn't been able to get their one player back on up, they have that differential that's going to pinch them and be very difficult to work with. And I love Fallen here being very cautious, right? It's like we could wait for the time to get involved on this, but we don't have a recon operator, so we're just playing off audio cues and seeing if we can catch someone off guard.
Definitely patience. Obviously, Mandel Brick Addiction down 1 player is going to be a huge boon for one of these other teams. But frankly, for Mandel Brick Addiction, it's a huge boon that we've got Fallen coming in and third partying this, because otherwise they would have been in a really tough spot. Again, on the north side of the map, things are very quiet. Somehow, actually, I know exactly how Mandel Brick Addiction's been able to get their revive because of this fight on our screen right now. So it does look like we were a little bit low on ammo for some of these teams.
Came in with just a minimum amount of things and is just planning on looting. And right, you're gearing up to take 1 or 2 fights that you feel confident with, and plus being able to loot those bodies and resupply back on up. But when we're less than 5 minutes on the timer, it's going to get that much more interesting, because this is where we're talking about the extracts, right? Legerant de la Teste, we already have Perry opening things up. This might just be their game, Goj. Not only have they found so many asset value, but they get the opening onto this.
This is a huge fight for them in a 3v2. On the other side, Legerant de la Teste in trouble, down a player And I'm getting word they didn't even bring in armor, like, at all. They brought in no armor for the sake of saving money, and it might be a problem. We do trade out one, no, maybe two. It's going to be Stickinson, Kaiser winning the gunfight, winning the trades, and wiping this team. Your winners of Delta Force Global League Season 1 and Season 2. First out in this lobby. 27 seconds on this extract, and here comes Mandelbrick Addiction trying to third party. Stickinson is holding the angle. Tags up one. They've got the information on them, and I don't think Mandelbrick Addiction is going to be able to move in time.
No, there's no way. They have 15 seconds, and they are setting up for the success here. You're already getting the whirling discs out, looking to connect and just try and keep that. We even get a knock onto Bulldoze. So Mandelbrick Addicts, they just have to see what they can do through the guise of the smokes. Can they find the angle, or are they going to walk right into a trap?
A couple knocks, but I don't think they're able to get the fulls. And as a reminder, look how many people extracted on that. Mandelbrick Addiction technically gets 2 out. A nice sneak into the extraction point with about 800k or so, able to get out of this map. But the big story of this map is absolutely Perry. They get admin to themselves, they get an airdrop to themselves, and they all get out of the lobby with a couple kills. Looking really good right now if you're Perry. A massive first map.
Yeah, also, you got YJK up ahead, 1.9 million in asset value. Fallon have already found some success by getting 1 kill on the board and would need to take this, but Flaridge already down. We saw, you know, Jack there trying to hit the grapple, but YJK say, we're going to get aggressive. This is how we capitalize on it. Go for the major full and just keep on going.
Yeah, I like this a lot from this team. They are just swinging, and they were able to find a full wipe as well. Down go Fallen. Some of our top dogs having a frustrating first map. And frankly, Tiff, I think this goes back to kind of validate what we were talking about. Everybody's a top dog. This is going to be the top level competition, and they're going to go for the revive here, which I think is totally fair. But they've got to get to an extract if they want to keep some of this loot value. Fill up your safe boxes, sure, but you've only got 2 minutes to get out of this map. Key reminders, though, 300,000 Technic Alloy per kill in each of these games. So that's a decent amount of value just for wiping teams. You get a full wipe, that's 900k that your team's going to be able to take home and use going into the next one. It'd be nice to piece some of these weapons, or at least take the full thing out if you can. Got a big enough bag for it. Nice loot value they're able to add before they're hopefully able to try to get out of here. You're basically able to go to either repair or dam crest right now. Question is, can you make it in time?
Yeah, the issue is the one that they're kind of running towards, if I'm not mistaken, isn't that just only the drop your backpack? So as long as you can get everything where you need to be and just run and get the extract, you should be all right. So we'll see. YJK, you know, Perry got all 3 out with 6.6 million. Mandelbrick Addicts got 2 out and hopefully had enough, but we are full sprinting, should be good. Nice, pretty much round here for YJK.
Yeah, this was a very interesting map, frankly. It was a very slow start just based on the spawns that we were given. Everybody was really spread out. And then as expected, the airdrop was one of the reasons we had our first big encounter. And you can see, looks like we've got some Lapua ammo, but I don't think we've got the AWM. I think we maybe found that on somebody else. YJK came in late. But Lapua ammo, pretty expensive, so be able to sell that. Can't buy the AWM. We do see at least Jack get out through the no backpack extraction. The other 2 players are going to try to make it here. I don't think they make it. Running through cement plant right now. Yeah, this is just very close, but not enough. Do get 1 player out with a decent amount of loot, likely, and they've got plenty of kills, so they'll have plenty of money going into the next round to have just about whatever they want. Just not going to be crazy way up there on the leaderboard in comparison to what Perry was able to do this map, Tiff.
Just a real interesting starting point here on Zero Dam. It's kind of that level playing field of how are you going to set yourself up for success once those Mandelbricks start dropping. And if you have to...
Delta Force Invitational Qualifiers. Here's our scores from match number 1. This is our total assets on the board. And good golly, Miss Molly, Perry had an absolute banger match. Now, again, I believe this does take into account the first 3 million that essentially the teams will start with, 1 million per player. Even still, unbelievable totals with their kills in total. We're over 10 mil to start the day off. Talk about a way to set the bar high for Team Perry.
Yeah, look, here's the deal. Not only that, but you got Stickinson from Team Perry that had 3 kills. So 900,000 Technic alloy just from one player. You got Starbaxer who also had 1. So 4 for the entirety of the total team. YJK in the mix there in second place with a nice 4.5 mil. They were fragging out on the map. At first, I thought it was Fallen that had taken down, I believe it was No Game, No Life. Early on, no, I was mistaken. It was YJK. YJK were just absolutely being menaces. And if you think about it, they came in that 3rd place slot from the semis last weekend. So they had something to prove, right? They were just up there in the total loot value, but maybe with the frags that they got, I'm talking 6 total frags, Goj.
Yeah, huge amounts. And here's our totals across the board with everything involved. Perry at the top, YJK second, Mana Break Addiction third. But it's close pretty much for everybody besides Perry at the top. I mean, a pretty close match. First game usually goes this way. It doesn't necessarily always set a team way above the rest. Usually it keeps the leaderboard fairly close. Everybody uses it as a looting round. But I thought it was super interesting to see Perry so far ahead with a bit of RNG luck on their side, not only in the spawns, but also winning admin. And by the way, my suspicions were correct. Saeed did drop that key card. So that's a nice couple mil there in total from that key card. I think around 1.5 or so just from that one key card alone. So they got some nice luck with what they were able to do, taking down Saeed and winning out of admin and getting that drop, that airdrop there on the north side of the map. I mean, good grief, an absolute banger from them. And winning a gunfight that was frankly very difficult to win against our Frenchman there in 4th place on our leaderboard. Leg Durance was in the best position on Dam. They're in the Dam extract.